Kate always wanted a dog for Christmas, especially a Labrador puppy, but she didn't get one. She got me instead, Sandy M. Claus. I was snatched away from my mother's warm, velvety bosom and then ceremoniously tossed into the weeds. My eyes were shut tightly against the frosty air. I heard a rustle. Someone or something was wading through the brush, causing the scrub to swish loudly as it approached. In that moment the rustle could have been a predator, ready to snatch me up in its jaws. At least I'll be warm for a moment before I'm hopelessly devoured, I thought. But it wasn't a predator. It was a human woman. She scooped me up in her hands. "Poor thing, he's freezing," she said with a tut. Through a squinted gaze, I saw a bright face and blue eyes. She cradled me in both her palms and brought me close to her mouth. Not to eat me, but to blow warm breath on me. If I'd been capable of tears, I would have been crying. I was still terrified, but I was warm. I don't know how she spotted me among the dead winter leaves. I wasn't brightly colored. In fact, I was the most ordinary shade of brown. But she did see me, or perhaps she heard the small, weak noises I was making. If she hadn't found me, I indeed would have died there, discarded and unnamed. I never would have been Sandy M. Claus. The woman tucked me into her shirt collar against her neck, walked back to her old rusty pickup truck, and closed the door with a slam. Nestled in a tight ball against her warm skin, I was lulled to sleep by the hum of the tires against the road. When she got home, she brought me inside and cleaned me up with a warm, damp washcloth. She offered me some ground-up food, but I didn't have the slightest idea what to do with it. I hadn't even learned to eat yet. "Oh my," she exclaimed with an exasperated sigh. She started rummaging through the kitchen drawers. "No bottles," she said to herself. She got a cup, poured milk into it, and warmed it in the microwave. Once it was warm, she used a small spoon to offer me the sweet substance. I sipped it up vigorously. She patiently provided the life-giving liquid to me until my small tummy was round and full. I grunted with contentment and let sleep overtake me. This routine of sleep and nourishment continued for a week, and then she started me on wet food. Once I learned to eat, my growth accelerated. The woman had finally let me out of my cardboard box and given me a roam of the kitchen. It was about that time that Mai noticed me. I was lapping up some water from a metal bowl next to the back door when I looked up. I was startled and hopped back an inch, making an involuntary spat. Mai was towering over me in her full-grown majestic glory, a sleek Siamese. Her intense blue eyes were surveying me. She didn't hiss, but instead licked her paw. I knew I smelled something peculiar in here besides the garbage, she purred. "Who are you?" I asked as I sniffed the air. "Mom calls me Mai." "Who's Mom?" I inquired. "The woman, silly, the one who brought you here," she said, rolling her eyes. I didn't know, I admitted as slowly backed away from her. I'm sure my tail looked like a pipe cleaner, and I could feel the hair standing up on my back. "Don't worry, I won't bite you," she assured me. "At least not too hard. The daughters will like you, I think. Even if Kate did want a puppy, they will be coming back from Nana's at the end of the week." "What's a daughter?" "Yeah, I suppose you don't know much of anything, do you?" she observed while slinking around me. I made sure to stay facing her. "No, I guess I don't. Mom has 2 young in her litter. They are both daughters. So they are kittens like me. They are young like you, but they aren't kittens. The people call their young children," she explained. "So we will grow up together." I asked hopefully. "Yes and no. You will grow up, but you'll outpace them. You see, humans live many generations. They age slowly, and their children do the same. We mature, and they seem nearly static season after season. If you're here long enough, you'll notice subtle changes, but it will take a while. When I came here, I was much like you, small and helpless. I felt like I was just another one of Mom's children, but I grew up. I reached adulthood before the human baby girl who came before me was even weaned. Time does not pass the same for them. This is all a lot to take in, I replied. It is, she said with a slight nod. She passed and took a drink from the bowl. She then silently trotted across the tile and gracefully vaulted over the baby gate that barred me from the rest of the house. I pattered across the tile and watched her slink away into the living room. A white shaggy rug covered the hardwood floor, and a large picture window provided a view outside with its unencumbered window sill. I hopped onto the sill and looked at the world beyond. Maybe Mom will let me out there when I get bigger, I thought. Mom came home with an armload of paper shopping bags. She sat them on the counter by the door, unlaced her boots, and left them there by the back door. I ran to her, rubbed on her legs, and purred as loudly as I could muster. Mom, pick me up, I cried, but she only seemed to hear a series of little kitten meows. Pick me up, I yelled again, but I still wasn't getting the results that I wanted. So I leaped up, and with my little needle-like claws, I started to scale her pant leg. She wasn't angry but laughed instead. Okay, little cat, she said and scooped me up. I gave her a rough little lick and kneaded her shoulder like dough, purring with all my tiny might. I didn't have a name yet. She just called me Little Cat. I was excited to meet the little girls Mai had told me about. In my scope of time, the end of the week felt like a long way away. Mai implied to me that Kate, the oldest girl, would likely name me. The night before the girls got home from Michigan, Mom put me in the utility room in a cardboard box. I could hear her in the kitchen when the girls walked in through the back door. Don't go into the utility room. There are presents in there, Mom warned the daughters. Okay, Mom, he heard a small voice say. All right, a slightly deeper one piped up. I could hardly contain my excitement. I started to meow, but Mai was sitting on the dryer. Don't spoil the surprise, little cat, she said. I just don't want to wait. I want to meet them, I replied. Just imagine how much more exciting it will be if you wait. Mom bought you a red collar with a bell. I also saw a large red box with a lid and bow. So just be quiet and don't ruin the surprise, little cat, she said. I agreed with a nod. But they had already left the kitchen anyway. Even if I did meow from the basement utility room, they wouldn't hear me. Mai jumped down and started up the wooden steps. I'll come down later to check on you, little cat, she said before disappearing through a pet door that led to the first floor. I could hardly sleep that night. I spent most of it up playing with a string and sharpening my needle-like claws on the cardboard of the box. Mai came in very early in the morning to check on me. Do you even clean yourself? She trilled, not expecting an answer. I must have looked scruffy and unkempt. I did, on occasion, lick my paw or my tail. But the nuances of grooming were lost on me. I had been ripped away far too soon from my feline mother. I continued to scratch at the string, ignoring her. She jumped in the box with me and started to clean me. We need you to look your best. Mom will be here to collect you in an hour or two. She purred and continued to lick me, and I continued to play. Did you ever have kittens, Mai? I asked. Now lay on this old towel and dry off. Don't ruffle your fur. It's all in place, she said, ignoring my question. She then jumped out of the box and trotted up the basement steps. Mai, I meowed, but she was already gone. I curled up on the towel and got a little nap while I was waiting on Mom. I woke when she scooped me up and sat me on the dryer. She scratched my little head and then put on the red collar that Mai had told me about. Mom kissed me on the forehead and placed me in the gift box. It was cozy and had a new bed inside. I curled up in the darkness and anticipated my big reveal. I could hear the rustling of the wrapping paper. 2 presents left for Kate, Mom said. Kate opened my box first. I hopped around excitedly and purred. The bell on my collar was jingling uncontrollably. The red-headed girl had bright blue eyes, just like Mom. She hadn't picked me up yet, and there was a moment of anticipation where I feared that she didn't want me. I wasn't a puppy, after all. Open the next one, her mom continued. She did, and revealed the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. It was a cat teaser toy. It was a stick with ribbon and feathers and jingling bells. Mom set me on the ground next to the box. Kitty, the other more petite girl gasped. She was watching intently with curiosity when Kate started playing with me. I chased the ribbons, running as fast as I could. I missed and somersaulted. Both girls were laughing the bright child laugh, which made me play even harder. They took turns playing with me until I fell over on my side from exhaustion. Kate stroked my sandy brown fur. "What will you name him, sweetie?" Mom asked. "I don't know." Kate looked at me and looked around the room. "He's sin-colored like a little desert cat. He has a little limb on his forehead. You could name him something that starts with an M," Mom said. "I don't know," Kate continued. The younger daughter had taken the opportunity to steal a tiny Santa hat off of a Christmas tree decoration. She placed it on my head with a bewildering squeal. "Santa Kitty Claus! Santa Kitty Claus!" the little girl shrieked. I ran around the box until the hat fell off, and then dove into Kate's lap. Kate chuckled. And then an idea dawned on her. She held me up high. "Sandy M. Claus!" she shouted. "He's Sandy M. Claus!" That was how I became the cat I am now. Things were normal for a while. I grew up, and the girls changed very little in the first year. There were subtle changes, sure, but these small changes occurred over many seasons. I grew from an infant to a fully fledged adult cat in the next 2 years. To me, those 2 years felt like a lifetime. Time had started to slow down a little as the summer of my second year drew to a close. I wouldn't age as quickly now. I jumped up into the picture windowsill next to mine. "You were right," I told her. "About what?" she said with a chatter. "About the children and how they never seem to grow up. Time really doesn't pass the same for us," I replied. Mai was much like an older sister to me. She was vibrant even though she was pushing the age of 10. Mom took good care of us. Our coats were shiny, and we didn't have any fleas. Mai told me we could live 20 years, maybe more, if we were fortunate. Ghost, Mai's predecessor, had lived 21 years. That's how Mai had learned so much about humans. Ghost was already 18, ancient by cat standards, when Mai had come to live here. Mom was like Kate and Emma once too, a child. Ghost told me it took almost her whole feline lifetime to watch Mom grow up. Mom was but 5 years old when she got Ghost for Christmas. She wasn't called Mom back then. Her name was Deborah, Mai told me. I watched the yellow leaves fall from the trees in our front yard as I contemplated the length of human life. Mai guided me and gave me insights into the humans I grew to love very deeply. She knew many things I did not. Kate was 13 now. All those little changes I hadn't noticed had accumulated, and she was transitioning into an adolescent. I was her constant companion after school. Our normalcy was cut short, though. One day, Mom never came home. She'd gone on her average grocery trip, but she was still gone. The kids weren't home from school, but the big yellow bus would drop them off any minute. Not once in my entire life had Mom ever been absent from home when the bus dropped them off. I ran through the house, looking in every room in case, out of some fluke, I'd taken a nap and missed her return. But she wasn't there. I found Mai on Mom's pillow. Mom didn't come back, and the children will be home any minute. I meowed loudly. But the children didn't come home either. Something was seriously wrong. I could feel it in my bones. Kate and Emma finally came home, but Mom wasn't with them. Their father was. He lived in the house with us, but he didn't interact with Mai or me. He drove a truck cross-country and was only here on the weekends. He and I didn't see eye to eye. He professed he wasn't a cat person and asked Mom why she just hadn't gotten a puppy the first time he met me. We weren't fond of each other, but both of us loved Mom, and that's all that mattered. Mom's absence was strange, and the behavior of the other humans was even stranger. They usually conversed, but they were quiet. There were only tears and disquietude. Dad set a paper bag on the floor of the master bedroom. I followed behind him, slunk under the bed, and lay down next to Mai. What do you think happened? What's going on? I asked. I don't know, Sandy. It's nothing I've encountered, she replied. I waited until Dad had left the room. I wanted to see what was in the brown paper bag. I walked over and smelled it. It smelled like Mom. I knocked it over, and Mom's boots and all of her clothes tumbled out. I wasn't sure what this meant, but it couldn't have been anything good. I ran out of the room and up the stairs. Kate was on her bed. Her eyes were red. What's wrong? I asked with a trill. She only heard the trill, but she answered me all the same. Mom's gone, she said. Her voice was quivering. There was a car accident, and the other truck went through a red light in. I reached up and licked her salty cheeks and then looked into her eyes solemnly and intently. I knew she would never really understand anything I said to her, but I tried my best to communicate that I was there for her and that I loved her very much. Mai was standing in the doorway. She had been listening. She jumped on the bed next to me. It can't be true. Mom's not supposed to leave before us, Mai said with the most melancholic meows I'd ever heard. Kate curled up in a tight ball with her knees to her chest, and the two of us curled up next to her. Things were going to be very different from now on in so many terrible ways, but I would be here for Mom's daughters. I wasn't a dog, but I'd do my best to protect them as long as I was able, as long as I was blessed with this short life. Part 2 is coming soon.